All right, guys, we have a very special guest. He's coming back on the show. We have Rams Super Bowl winning head coach Dick Vermeil. How's it going, Dick? How's it going, Coach? Hope all is well, and thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, we're doing fine here in the East. I'm in Chester County, Pennsylvania, sort of hibernating out here in the country. It's an isolated area where we live, so we're pretty safe, and we don't have anybody around us with a virus problem, so we're lucky.
Yeah, definitely lucky for sure. And I kind of mentioned to you off air that I ran into a couple years ago at the Legends of the Dome game in St. Louis, but I unfortunately didn't have the chance to have a conversation with you. So I'm really, really excited to have you on the show and get to talk to you now. But yeah, my first question for you is going to be, what have you been up to lately, post football, and then especially right now, kind of during this crazy time that the world's in?
Well, in terms of post-football and trying to make a living, we turned a hobby of making wine into a full-fledged business in 2008. So I invest quite a bit of time on that. Even though the business is in California, I can get a lot done from here, and I do spend time out there, especially during the harvest. But anyway, that requires a lot of time and a lot of moving. Of course, now during the pandemic, our tasting room in Napa is closed, and I'm not doing any wine dinners around the country or anything. So I'm really, like everybody else, I'm in idle mode right now.
Wow, that's awesome, Dick. I had no idea that you were doing that. Do you want to give the name out there for anybody that's interested in checking that out?
Yeah, it's Vermeil Wines. You can just Google VermeilWines.com, and you'll see that we're making between 2,500 and 2,800 cases of wine, 3 very high-end Cabernets, a Zinfandel, now a little Petit Syrah for our club members, actually a little Charbonneau, too. We had a visual Zoom wine tasting event last night. We had 48 people on, had a lot of fun with that. We make some Sauvignon Blanc and a little Chardonnay. So I've been involved with the wine in and out all my life, being born and raised there in the Napa Valley, and grew up helping my grandfather Vermeil make our own family wine. So always had the interest, and out of coaching, here I am trying to make a living making wine. It's a lot tougher than the NFL, I'll tell you that.
No, that's awesome. Absolutely love that. But you did mention the NFL, so we will shift gears. I do want to get your thoughts. A player that you coach, one of the legendary Rams, Isaac Bruce, is finally a Hall of Famer. Finally. The question I am going to give you is, when do you see his counterpart, Torry Holt, getting into the Hall of Fame?
Well, Torry's been in the finals now, and he was this last year. And I kind of believe it'll be next year. So that'll make 5 players off that one team in the NFL Hall of Fame. And I'm very proud of the fact that my personnel department and my coaching staff and I, we brought 4 of them to St. Louis in 3 years. So that's why we won football games.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And yeah, totally agree. I think next year is going to be Torry's year for sure. Kind of going into that, with this new stadium that they're building in LA, a lot of fans believe that they might put a Ring of Honor in that stadium for former Rams. So, just curious, do you have any guys that kind of stand out to you as being players or coaches that, should be in that Ring of Honor, or any guesses of who might be included?
Well, they've already had a Ring of Honor in St. Louis that I'm sure that I'm in it. I'm sure they will transfer that to the Ram Stadium. And most teams that move do that. But I can't guarantee anything. No one's told me what they're going to do, but I would imagine that. But I think the obvious people, remember, they've got other old Ram time players that were the original Los Angeles Rams, the Deacon Jones, the Merlin Olsen, those kind of guys, Roman Gabriel, they go all the way back to Bob Waterfield and those kind of people, Norm Van Brocken, those kind of people that I'm sure are already in the Ring of Honor and will be included in the new one if they do have one.
Yeah, no, I completely hear you there. It's actually quite the history, just going over that. And of course, you were part of the 1969 Los Angeles Rams team that went 11-3 with George Allen. So, you've been around talent from, and obviously, it matches, the type of talent you are as a coach.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. But players win games, coaches help them. I learned that when I was a high school coach. My second year in the league at about 23 years old, I'm coach of the year. We go undefeated. We win the championship. 90% of the kids graduate. The next year we win 4 games, and I was a better coach the next year. So that taught me a lesson right there. Don't ever think you're so smart you can win without players.
Love it. And, we got to ask you, because a lot of former Rams have been, putting their input in on the new jerseys that the Rams released. So I guess I'm just curious, have you seen them? And if so, what are your thoughts on them?
I have not seen the actual football jersey. I was sent a jersey with the color of the Reds and the helmet stripe, a little bit different than that, as a gift from the Ram organization, a hoodie type thing. Not a true football jersey, and I haven't seen the football jersey itself yet. But I'm an old timer, so I sort of like the Ram uniform that we wore better than the one that went to next. And I think I like the original Ram uniform that in the 60s and 70s, and that with the blue and white. I sort of favor that again because I date back to that, and that's how I originally identified with the Rams, and even more so the people inside those uniforms.
Yeah, I definitely hear you there. We had former Ram Leroy Irvin on the show, and he wasn't exactly keen on changing the logo and all of that. And I totally get it. I mean, you look at this Rams team and this franchise, going back to the 30s, and the fact that this is the first franchise that created the logo on the helmet, with Fred Gerke putting, that.
I don't understand, but I'm not against it, but you haven't seen Nike change their emblem. You haven't seen Target change their emblem. If you get something that's good and solid, you stick with it. People tend to identify it generation after generation. And I think there's a carryover value that exists. And I can still remember as a high school coach watching the Los Angeles Rams play the San Francisco 49ers in a preseason game in LA and saying, geez, I love those Ram uniforms. And I remember John Arnett ran a touchdown back for ran a kickoff back for a touchdown in one of those games. But I remember that Ram helmet.
It's hard to forget that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with your sentiment there about the logos and the jerseys and things like that as well. But something I'm curious is the Rams have a new young head coach. I guess maybe not so new anymore. He's been coaching now for about 3 seasons in Sean McVay. So I'm just curious, have you met or spoken with Sean McVay? And if so, what are your thoughts?
Well, I enjoy him. I know him a little. I've only had one sit-down breakfast with him for about 3 hours and really enjoy him. And I try to stay in touch with him, and I throw some things his way once in a while when I think I've got a great thought that the young coach might enjoy having in terms of leadership and philosophy and training camp and that kind of stuff. He's a humble guy. He's talented. He's learning, and he's only going to get better. The problem is he started out so good early. You start out your first year with 11 wins and go to the playoffs and get beat. Then you go to 13 wins and go to the Super Bowl and get beat. Then you go to 9 wins. It's hard when you start out that fast to continue to keep getting better. I think it's better to do it the way I did it when we won it all. You start with 4 wins, 5 wins, then win it all. And then get out of there because it's going to be hard to match that.
It's funny you say it because I was just going to ask you, basically you're looking at a flip-flop thing here with, like you said, you started off with 4 wins with that Rams team, and then you worked your way up to a Super Bowl. How do you see Sean McVay, overcoming what really wasn't a bad year last year, but I think a lot of people would agree they just had so much talent, and to see them, miss the playoffs was really harsh. How do you see them kind of overcoming that, and Sean McVay overcoming that, and, on their path to going back to another Super Bowl?
Well, they hope the draft will help. They hope that free agency helps. There's some coaching changes made. They lost 2 real good football coaches. They lost a special team coach that I think probably was the best in the league, and a defensive coordinator that unbelievable experiences have been around since, since the Mayflower, I think. But when you lose those kind of people, it's tough. But Sean has done a good job of surrounding himself with good people, and he's intellectually humble. If he doesn't know, he asks. He doesn't think he knows everything, and I think he'll continue to grow as a coach. He may do a better job of coaching and not win as many games. Goff has got to play better than he did last year. the running back problem last year, and now he's gone. But there's a lot of little variables. And the other thing is the schedule. You start playing these tougher. When you win, you're playing that tougher schedule in your division and that kind of stuff. It makes it tough, and you've got to earn every single battle. It's tough. And their division, my God, stop and think soon. Their division, you got the Seahawks, the 49ers. There's Super Bowl caliber teams, and you play them twice. So that makes it tough.
Yeah, definitely. And I like that you pointed out the division, because something that Jake and I have talked about on the show recently is that the NFC West has gotten super competitive in the last few years. But, especially after this last draft, I think every team in the NFC West got better after the draft. So, it's going to be interesting to see how next season plays out for sure. But, I got to ask you, because I grew up in St. Louis, having season tickets to the greatest show on turf in the Rams. And I idolized the greatest show on turf and you and all the players. And I'm just curious, obviously that Super Bowl winning season, if I were to ask what your favorite memory was, I'm sure winning the Super Bowl would be up there. But is there any other memory or something from that season besides, winning the Super Bowl that stands out to you the most that fans might be curious to know?
Yeah, I think really it was the fourth game of the season. We're playing the San Francisco 49ers in St. Louis. The 49ers had beaten the St. Louis Rams 17 times in a row. They were in the playoffs the year before. They come to town. At the end of the first quarter, we are ahead 21-0. We beat them 42-20 in that ball game. The week before that we had beaten the Cincinnati Bengals 38-10. Before that, we'd beaten the Super Bowl Atlanta Falcons, the team, 35-7. It was a really but that convincing 42-point game against the 49ers just told me, hey, we are something special. And now we just have to stay healthy and keep coaching and keep our attitudes in line.
Yeah, I love that. I love that those scores. I mean, it's like, everyone makes such a big deal about Sean McVay, remembering the game-winning play that he used in high school. But, hey, Dick, you're right up there. You remember those scores dead on. You even remember, what the score was in the first quarter. So, it's
that's about all I remember, to tell you that. It's scary.
Hey, I mean, Total Recall is pretty cool. Not gonna lie. With that being said, you looked at, basically you went through this Rams team a little bit, and how basically this isn't easy. This NFC West is tough. Now a lot of people are saying, well, it's pretty much split. You could see the Rams kind of fall off a cliff this year, or you could see them ascend back to where they were, 2017-18. Now, where are you in that? Because I've seen a lot of, like the mainstream media seems to believe that the Rams are 6-10 bound. I don't believe in that. I have them at 11-5. But not to put you on the spot with all these Rams fans, but I do want to know, what are you kind of seeing, with this Los Angeles Rams team in 2020?
Well, I certainly don't see them going 11-5. Okay, I see them, with the teams they play and everything, but I see them splitting with Seattle, and I see them splitting with the Niners, and if you can do that in that division, I think that'll show that they're the caliber of team that can do better than split with the rest of their 14 games, or rather their 12 other games. But when you have to play the teams that they play in their division twice, it makes it very, very tough. But you have to split with them. So you have to split with them. Now, even last year, if you'll remember, the Rams came out the second game of the season. They beat the Saints, who really was a Super Bowl caliber team. Then they had the losing streak 3 in a row to Tampa Bay, which no one thought much of that. They thought the 49ers the Rams weren't very good, but Tampa Bay ends up being a good football team. And they lost to Seattle the next week and the 49ers the next. So they lost to 3 playoff teams in a row. Then they come back and playing non-playoff teams, and they kept the losers losing. That's what you have to do. But you better split if you play teams twice that are really good. Otherwise, it makes it really tough.
Yeah, I agree. Without those tiebreakers at the end of the day, you're putting yourself in a bad position. With this,
Yeah. Well, remember last year, split with Seattle.
Yeah.
Last year they split with Seattle, but 49ers beat them twice, and they can't let that happen this year. I know they won't do it on purpose, but it sure helps to split with the best teams in your division.
Yeah, it definitely does. It was honestly really hard to watch that 49er game. I mean, it was hard to watch the Seattle game on Thursday night where, Zerline, who's been money, I mean, he missed it, and I mean, they shouldn't have even been in the position to begin with. But, hopefully we'll see a Rams team that's willing to not just compete, but can get back to where they were. Obviously anytime you let go of an era where you had a Super Bowl, literally, like, I mean, it's a little bit over a year ago, but I think people forget that the Rams were in the Super Bowl a year ago. I mean, it's pretty crazy. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, this is a talented team. You have a young coach in Sean McVay. He's seeing, maybe the error of his ways last year, maybe things that he may have missed, going out and getting an offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator. Although we'll see how that works. I do think, I agree with you. Wade Phillips is, quite the guy. And of course, the special teams coordinator, I think the best in the league was Coach Bones. But, I guess, we'll see in that regard. I think it'll be an interesting season. Hopefully we have a season, Dick, because, there is some concern about that. As well as there's some concern about the playoff structure with having 7 teams. So, we'll see.
They should have had the playoff structure as they just made it forever. It was, my last year at the Chiefs in 2005, we won 10 games. And we beat like 4 or 5 playoff teams in a row before the end of the season and didn't make the playoffs with 10 wins. So, yeah, it was our fault because we got beat by a loser during the regular season. And that really killed us. But a 10-win team ought to be in the playoffs.
I agree. I actually do like the 7 teams. I just think maybe like a division winner. I don't know. There were years where, like, when Seattle went like 8-8 and they were hosting a playoff game. We all know how that went. I think they're trying to figure out what the happy medium is. Obviously, you don't want to have, more than half the league in the playoffs like the NHL is going to do. But, I think it'll be an interesting year, and, I'm excited for it. Hey, Dick, we really appreciate you coming on. Is there anything else you'd like to say, before you head out of here, and, anything to say to the Rams fans?
No, well, I'm looking forward to seeing the Stan Kroenke and the new stadium. They say it's a monument to football. I just hope they get to fill it up soon.
Yeah, us too. We definitely, hope that next season goes as planned with everything going on. But thank you so much for coming on the show. I know we really, really enjoyed talking to you, and you are welcome back anytime.
Thank you. You take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Take care, Coach. Always a pleasure.
Bye-bye. Thank you.